On the news, President Buhari to meet South African Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa grants landing permits to Air Peace. And Israelis return to polls in second election in 1 year. Many thanks for joining us on News Now. I am Fidelia Aguncha. President Muhammadu Buhari will visit South Africa to meet with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to revive the Binational Commission, BNC. Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema said this during a media briefing in Abuja on Tuesday. Onyema says the Nigerian government hopes to resuscitate the Binational Commission with South Africa as it presses on for compensations for Nigerians who suffered losses in the wake of the recent wave of xenophobic violence in the country. According to him, President Buhari has decided to apply diplomacy to the standoff between citizens of their countries. The Binational Commission was established in 1999 with a broad framework of promoting trade and investment in the African continent, as well as enhancing people-to-people cooperation and institution building. The minister added that the proposed bilateral talks between President Buhari and his South African counterpart indicates that both countries are willing to move forward in unity.
Most importantly is that Mr. President will be going to South Africa on October the 3rd, and there's a binational commission between South Africa and Nigeria, and it's been agreed that this commission will now be at the level of the heads of state. So it'll be the only binational agreement this country has at the level of heads of state. So, and within the framework of this binational commission, so we'll go there to discuss all issues of importance to both countries and also sign various agreements. So this is a framework within which we can address all the issues you've raised, where you say that the people who have left, for instance, and we have heard this, that they've cancelled their right of residence in South Africa as a result, and that their work permits of Nigerians that will not be renewed.
South African authorities have granted Air Peace Flight B777 a landing permit after an initial delay. Nigeria's Consul General in Johannesburg, Godwin Adama, confirmed this to newsmen in Abuja on Tuesday. Over 300 Nigerians were expected to return home today as part of the government's efforts to evacuate citizens in the wake of xenophobic attacks in South Africa. But according to the airline, they would be taking off later this evening as a result of the delay in obtaining a landing permit. Managing Director of Air Peace, Alan Onyema, has said that the refusal of South Africa to grant the landing permit made it impossible for the flights to leave Lagos at 1 a.m. on Tuesday for Johannesburg to convey the second batch of returnees as scheduled. But Adama said the permit had been granted the airline and that the flight would leave South Africa on Tuesday night. So far, 187 Nigerians have been successfully evacuated and profiled, according to their states, after xenophobic attacks by South Africans forced the federal government to repatriate them. President Muhammadu Buhari has charged members of the Police Service Commission to redouble their efforts in ensuring that the Nigeria Police Force delivers on its responsibilities. The president said this while receiving the 2018 annual report of the Commission. He says the Commission has the responsibility of carrying out oversight function of the police and charged them to show enough commitment when the country is faced with severe internal security challenges. On his part, Chairman Police Service Commission Musiliu Smith explained the funding challenges of the Commission, asking the adequate funding to fulfill their mandate. Smith added that the management is putting together a productive Nigeria police force which will receive acclaim and endorsement of all Nigerians.
Your assignment is enormous and calls for sacrifice and commitment, especially now that nearly every country is faced with severe internal security challenges. Nigeria is no exception. I am aware that you have put policies in place to reposition the police force in the areas of merit-driven promotions and prompt disciplinary actions. Government will require that you redouble your efforts and ensure that the police force receives the required assistance for optimal service delivery. I wish to see close communication and understanding between you and the Nigerian police. This is necessary for the overall efficiency and effectiveness in securing the country. I have listened to your challenges and constraints, especially on funding and office accommodation. I want to assure you that government will do its best to make sure you have the necessary support, both in funding and good environment, to carry out your constitutional responsibilities.
I want to mention some of the challenges and constraints that have been facing the Commission. And I'll start with the issue of, I know the funding can never be adequate, the funding of inadequate funding, which has continued to persist to the disadvantage of the Commission. The envelope system of federal budgeting has left the Commission always financially crippled and unable to attend adequately to its very important constitutional responsibilities. Let me also add that the Commission has continued to face the reality of these inadequate funds needed to verify and conduct necessary processes leading to police recruitment, police promotion, and police discipline.
Nigeria is taking a bold step to stem crime by using technology to track criminals. Minister for Communication Issa Patami made this known while inaugurating the board of the Nigeria Communications Commission. TV360's Tunji Oye now reports.
Records show that virtually every crime committed in Nigeria today is traceable to the use of SIM card at one point or the other. The business of kidnapping, fraud, armed robbery, bunkering, car snatching, ritual killing, and many other crimes rely on the use of mobile phones and internet in their operations. This suggests that criminals are now using technology heavily to carry out their activities. To address this issue, the Nigeria Communications Commission, NCC, has taken up the challenge of ensuring that all incomplete registration of SIM cards are sorted by telecoms operators, and a huge success achieved so far.
The statistic was really alarming and worrisome. What was sent to me last week was 9.2 million with improper registration. I was really flabbergasted and worried because investigation reveals that 99% of crime being committed in Nigeria, SIM card is involved. Before you think of any economic benefit, the constitutional responsibility of the executive is the protection of lives and property. So the life of one innocent Nigeria is more important than any revenue federal government may get as a result of ignoring that improper documentation or registration. Within this period, they were able to rectify at least 6,775,000 on incomplete registration. This has been rectified. So the total number of incomplete registration as it is today, based on the report I received today, is 2.42 million. So the reduction within this period is 73.61%. This has been achieved. I think this is a significant achievement. From 9.2 now is back to 2.4. Within this period, 6.775 million had been rectified. and this is highly commendable.
The Minister of Communication, Issa Pachami, revealed that the figure of incomplete registration of SIM cards have drastically reduced to an encouraging level that will guarantee national security. The Nigeria Communications Commission has also been given a marching order to ensure that all incomplete SIM card registration done latest by September 25. The minister charged NCC to ensure that telecommunication companies comply with government's directive in the drive to reduce crime with the use of technology.
We urge the management to immediately inform the telecos. After 25th of September, when a crime is committed and SIM is being used, we only need the number of that SIM and convey it to the regulators. Within an hour, we want to get the details of the person who committed that crime. Even if that cannot stop people from committing crime, what we are interested, okay, let us know the identity of the person who committed the crime. If we can do that, I think a lot can be achieved. Let him go ahead and do, but we are sure that we know his identity. That identity can be presented to security agencies and they will be able to trace him easily.
It charged the board to uphold President Buhari's agenda of fighting corruption and ensuring security. From Abuja, Tunji Oye, TV360 News.
Age-long Petroleum Industry Bill (PNIB) would soon be reintroduced by the House of Representatives. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, said this on Tuesday as the House resumed plenary after an annual recess that lasted almost 2 months. He added that the House would also reintroduce the bill prohibiting estimated billing in the power sector to permanently end the wastefulness and unfairness created by an unreliable and arbitrary system that imposes unforeseen costs on individuals and businesses alike. Meanwhile, members of the House of Representatives have resolved to recommend Chairman of Air Peace, Allen Onyema, for a national award. This comes after the proprietor and management of Air Peace Airlines successfully evacuated the first batch of willing Nigerians from Johannesburg, South Africa, following xenophobic crisis on foreigners.
We will continue to ensure that those who have been hurt by these attacks are properly compensated for their loss. The House commends the efforts of the federal government of Nigeria in addressing the issues that gave rise to these unsavory events, as well as holding the government of South Africa accountable through the available diplomatic channels. We will continue to support these efforts by whatever means is required of us. We will also seek to take whatever active measures we can to help the returnees resettle in Nigeria and to resume productive lives here at home. I invite the House to, at this time, join me in commending the actions of Julius Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, and a respected voice in the politics of that nation, who openly and without equivocation condemned the attacks and directed his organization to provide aid and protection to our citizens facing harm. He has since then never relented in calling out the failures of the government that allowed the attacks to occur and to continue. In a similar fashion, honorable colleagues, Sir Allen Ifechukwu Onyema, chairman of Air Peace Airlines, provided his organization's services without charge to repatriate those Nigerians who were willing to return home to escape the carnage that had been visited upon them. The House of Representatives will consider important legislation such as the Petroleum Industry Bill. I believe that we in this 9th Assembly are ideally suited to surmount the obstacles that have mitigated against passage of this essential reform legislation, which is important if we are to properly address the structural, operational, and policy changes and inefficiencies in that industry. In addition to the Petroleum Industry Bill, we will seek the reintroduction of the bill prohibiting estimated billing in the power industry, intended to put a permanent end to the wastefulness and unfairness created by an unreliable and arbitrary system that imposes unforeseen costs on individuals and businesses alike.
Residents of the Ikpaja Ayobo Local Council Development Area of Lagos State are calling on the government to intervene as land grabbers, popularly called Omonile, invade their community. The residents of 15 community development associations are asking relevant authorities to come to their aid and intervene in the frequent extortion they face. Concerned residents organized a peaceful protest to the Lagos State House of Assembly to register their displeasure over the matter. This next report has more.
3 years after the enactment of the Lagos State Properties Protection Law 2016, many landed properties and estates in Lagos are still being encroached by land grabbers. For this reason, residents of Ayobo area of Lagos have gathered here at the State House of Assembly to plead for lawmakers' intervention. They are complaining about a notorious land grabber who they say has been terrorizing the community for a long time and has even gone to the extent of giving his victims a 14-day ultimatum to vacate their land.
The people of Ayobo are crying. They are dying slowly. The people of Ayobo are impatient anymore because every means required legally have been explored. Now this protest is against a certain Kaka who has been going around to humiliate, harass, threaten lives and property. But these same people have deemed it necessary to conduct themselves to come because we believe we have a chief security officer, we have a functioning legislature. An attempt have been made, petitions have been written. But what we got in recent time is that even the petition written to police authority, we notice that they are connivance.
Representative of the Ayobo community, Shoboye Michael, explained the horror which the hoodlums have unleashed on them.
It pinches where those that wear the shoe, know where it pinches. Some houses have been taken over. In fact, from my information right now, somebody who buried his father, even inside the house taken over, the corpse or corpses, how many corpses, about 3 or 2, have been removed. So nobody knows where. There's a law against land grabbers, so we know. But as soon as they heard that the governor is not coming back, the Ambode, in April, all this started. Forgetting that that law is sacrosanct. Don't let us make this country a jungle country or animal farm.
Honorable Rotimi Aberu, Chief Whip of the Lagos State House of Assembly, who spoke on behalf of the lawmakers, solicited with the protesters and promised that appropriate measures would be taken.
The state frowns at the issue of land grabbing to the extent that this House of Assembly had to pass a law, specifying, offenses for various degrees of atrocities that people commit. Such petitions will be looked into by the House. It could be through a committee. And I want to assure you that this will be communicated to the Speaker. And as soon as possible, we appreciate the 14-day ultimatum that they complained about. So it's very important that we actually act fast on this. I am sure that by the time we intervene appropriately, I'm sure peace will return to the community and justice will be done to the issues brought before House.
The Lagos State Properties Protection Law, which was earlier signed by former Governor Akinwumi Ambode, seeks to eliminate land grabbing in its multivarious forms, including illegal dealings in the real estate sector. Abisola Adebayo, TV360, Lagos.
You're still watching News Now. We'll be right back in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's now join Oyin Adekunle for news in business. Hello, Oyin.
Hi, Fidelia.
So I hear Nigeria's inflation rate has dropped. Tell me, just how much has it dropped?
Well, thank you, Fidelia. The National Bureau of Statistics have said the Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation, dropped from 11.08% in July to 11.02% in August. The Bureau in the report stated that inflation rate of 11.02% for August represents a decrease of 0.06 percentage points year on year. The NBS said that the drop in inflation rates continued in August despite several pronouncements regarding restrictions on the import of some food items, minimum wage, and the recent border closures. With respect to the impact of border closure on consumer prices, the Bureau stated that the country may not see the significant effect on inflation now, as the closure was only captured for 11 days during the 31 days reference period in August. The federal government says it will maintain the oil benchmark of $60 per barrel projected in the 2020 budget, despite the sudden surge in the price of crude oil. Oil prices rose to about $71 per barrel as markets reopened after an attack on Saudi Arabia's oil infrastructure that cut more than half of the country's production. But the Ministers for Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed and Clement Agba, noted that government is watching the situation in Saudi Arabia to determine the next line of action.
Considering the recent events that happened in the Middle East and the soaring oil prices, like you know, this for now is a one-off event. So we will be monitoring the situation. If it becomes sustainable, then there might be need to adjust. But for now, we'll maintain the benchmark rates that we have established in the budget and the budget proposal for 2020.
If Saudi Arabia, that has very sophisticated security systems, is affected in this manner, it means we are also vulnerable. So let us not be in a hurry to celebrate. And like the Minister of State said, we should also not be in a hurry to adjust our revenues.
We'll be taking a look at activities on the stock market after this break. Please stay tuned. The confidence of equity investors at the Nigerian stock market has begun dwindling since markets reopened negative this week. The NSE recorded another session of decline today for the second straight day, totaling about 190 billion naira loss in 2 days. Key market indicators that the all-share index sank further by 0.61% to settle at 27,407.04 basis points. Bearish trading in the shares of Airtel Africa led it to the top spot on the worst performance chart today again. From 315 naira yesterday, the shares of Airtel sold for 283 naira and 50 kobo, and that's a whooping 21 naira and 50 kobo decline. Flour Mill also shared 50 kobo in the value of its share price. And moving on, we see NCR and of course Zenith Bank also underperformed. And on the gainers chart, those who performed well despite the losses in the market today, Stanbic led the gainers following activities of bargain hunters, while Okomo Oil, which has been recording gains for about 3 straight days now, also made it, chalking up gains to the tune of 2 naira and 5 kobo. PZ and Cement Company of Northern Nigeria also gained 55 kobo and 45 kobo respectively. And activity levels at the Nigerian stock market today decreased as volume of shares traded dropped from 271 million to 198 million today. The total value of shares traded also shed about 7 million to close at 2.898 billion naira. And on the foreign scene, we see that most global markets are still feeling the impact of the soaring crude prices. Both FTSE and Dow Jones closed in the red, 0.014% for FTSE and 0.15% for Dow Jones, of course, except for Nikkei, which reopened after a one-day break, soaring to its highest in 5 months with a 0.059% rise in its all-share index. So that's it from here, Fidelia. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Oyin, for that review of the stock market. Let's now move to the foreign scene. At least 4 people have died and about 35 others injured after boats capsized in a storm off the coast of Senegal's capital, Dakar, on Monday night. Among the injured are 6 French nationals, 2 German, 2 Swedes, and 1 person from Guinea-Bissau. Emergency services reported that despite warnings of bad weather, the boat had left for an excursion to Madeleine Island. However, Dakar's Fire Brigade Chief, Papa Michael Diatta, could not confirm the exact cause of the accident, but said the boat was likely caught up in heavy rain and strong waves. And in Israel, voting is underway as citizens cast their ballot for the 2nd time this year. The election is widely seen as a referendum on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for Israelis to determine whether he gets another term or there will be call for new leadership. Netanyahu called the snap election after failing to form a government coalition in the wake of an election in April. Polls forecast his right-wing Likud party to tie with its main challenger, the centrist blue and white party led by former military chief Benny Gantz. An end to the Netanyahu era would be unlikely to lead to a big change in policy on hotly disputed issues in the peace process with the Palestinians that collapsed 5 years ago. However, the chances of a stable political future are slim, and there is even a possibility that Israelis will go to the polls for a 3rd time. And in sport, for the 2nd time in a row, Delta State has emerged champion of the National Youth Games. The South State garnered a total of 104 medals to clinch the #1 spot. Lagos also maintained its 2nd position from the last edition of the tournament with 72 medals. Bayelsa came a distant 3rd with 45 medals. The tournament, which is in its 5th year, was organized in Ilorin, Kwara State. Over 3,890 athletes drawn from 33 states and the FCT competed in 34 sporting events at the tournament.
It's the first outing for the new boards that we inaugurated in December, and we can see an improvement in the performance in those, especially in those sports that we had not done well before in the past year. So it's been an exciting performance. We'll go back again, look at the areas where we need to strengthen and where we need to re-strategize, and I'm sure next year we'll even come up with a much better performance.
The processes that we used in arriving at the kids here, I think we still have to review, so that next year when we're coming here, we'll be able to be #1. And it's not just about being #1 for us in Lagos. It's about making Lagos the sporting hub in Africa, and also the issue with age. We need to make sure anytime we're going for outing, we're going with the correct age.
Sport is also to promote national growth. Just look at all the athletes that are present here. Some of them have not gone out of their states before, but they found themselves here. The same way there are athletes here that have not been to any other state. So it might also be a delightful experience for them to visit other states.
Well, that's it on news now. Many thanks for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.